Hey everyone, this video is going to be about factoring and kind of being introduced to the constant I, which you'll see around. Okay, so for those of you who don't remember factoring is kind of just taking apart things, and it doesn't need to be only to like we're looking equations like we have here. Factoring can be 35 and 7. 25 into 5 and 5. It's just breaking down some type of multiplication product into its pieces. The reason it looks so weird here is because we have an equation with letters, with variables, okay? So you'll see at the bottom right here, we have some kind of weird looking stuff. We have a cross or an X and a box. This is kind of what we use to factor. And factoring is a pretty neat skill to have just because it makes solving equations, quadratic equations, a little bit simpler if you know how to do it. However, you need to have it in the form of a x squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Once you get good enough, you might not need to. You can probably just do this in your head. But for our case, we need to change the form. And we already know how to move things around, right? Because it's a positive 24, we need to subtract 24. And because none of these are like terms, that's what we have left. So now we'll move into the box. Yeah. So at the top, what we're going to do is we're going to need our A times our C. And if you look at this example, we have A there, so our A will be there. We're going to fill that in with an invisible 1. We have our B there, which means our B is going to be there, our C there, which is going to be our C. So at the top, if we have A times C, what that's going to be is A1 times negative 4. Let me go ahead and write these out too. So that's negative 24 at the top. At the bottom, we have B, and B is just negative 10. So here, we need to find factors that multiply to negative 24, but add to negative 10. So we can do that simply by listing out factors that we have. So I always go very methodical method. 124, 2, 12, 3, 8, 4, 6. So factoring doesn't really work all the time, but when it does, it gives us an easy way to solve these equations. We need to find some type of combination that multiplies negative 24 but adds to negative 10. So because we're adding something and it's getting us a negative number, we know our bigger number is going to be negative. So let's go ahead and do this. Because we are multiplying and we see that the answer or the product is negative, the other number has to be positive. So we can just figure out from here which of these gets us negative 10. So this is negative 23. That's negative 10. Well, that was pretty easy, right? So we have 2 and negative 12. So we're going to fill that in here. And then we're going to use our box method to kind of work out the rest of that. So we're always going to have our first term up in the top right corner. So that's going to be x squared. In the bottom right corner, we're going to have our c term, which is negative 24. And we're going to throw in the other two terms wherever, but give it an x. And then we're going to try to factor from every row into every column. So if we look at this, we have x squared and negative 2x. We're going to factor out the greatest common factor, and in this case, The only thing that factors out of both is an x. And then we're going to keep doing that. Right here, the biggest thing that can factor is actually a negative 12. So let's go ahead and do that. Over here, there's a small error. It should be positive 2x. And from there, we can see that we can factor out a 2, right? And then above that is just an x. So we just broke down x squared minus 10x minus 24. We found out that's x minus 12 times x plus 2 is equal to 0. And this is actually pretty easy to do after this. We're going to do something called the zero product property. Zero product property tells us that if we have two numbers, one of those numbers, or we have two numbers, the product is 0. That means at least one of those numbers has to be 0, right? So say we had 5, right? 5 times something is equal to 0. The only thing left is 0, right? Anything times 0 is 0. Now, to do zero product property, super easy. You take the two terms and you set them each to 0. And then you solve. And this is something you guys already know how to do. These are simple one-step equations. So for the one on the right, we're going to add 12 to both sides. And we get x is equal to 12. And for the equation on the right, we're going to subtract 2. So we get x is equal to 2. And those are our solutions. Okay, so they can be written like that. They can be written like this. Oops, not like that actually. They both mean the same thing, right? Okay, so now let's look at I real quick. So this is actually going to use the box too, but it's going to use the box in a different way. And for those of you who have seen biology, you might know this as the Punnett square. And this helps us just organize our multiplication. And where each of these corners intersect, or where each of these terms intersect, we're going to multiply them. So 6 and 18 intersect here. Or sorry, 6 and 3 intersect there. So 6 times 3 is 18. Let me change those colors real quick. Let's use purple. 18. Okay. 6 times I is going to be 6i. And right now, we're just going to treat I as a variable. So don't even worry about that piece right now. Negative 2i times 3 is negative 6i. And I times negative 2i is going to be negative 2i squared. Unlike the Punnett square, from here, we're going to write out all the terms that we have. So we have 18 minus 6i plus 6i and minus 2i squared. So your negative 6i and positive 6i, those are exact opposites. So they'll cancel out. So we have 18 minus 2i squared. So earlier when I was talking about viewing I as a variable, that's perfectly fine when you just have I. However, when you start having more than I, when you start having i's and they're being multiplied by each other, something different happens. So I is good. I squared is actually negative 1. I cubed is positive 1. I fourth is negative 1. And then this is actually just a cycle, but you'll get more into that later. For now, just understand I squared is 1. So wherever we see I squared, we're going to replace it with a negative 1. So 18 minus 2 I squared, but that's negative 1. And after this, it's just PEMDAS, right? So 18 minus 2 times 1, or negative 2. 18 minus 2 times negative 1. That's going to get us 18 plus 2, which is just equal to 20. Okay, awesome. So that was factoring in seeing I. Thanks for watching, guys.